Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, my students. I hope that you are doing all well. So, welcome back to another course. Today, we have to understand what's the difference between the simple, complex, compound sentences. So, in English, we have a lot of types of sentences. We have what we call a simple sentence, a complex, and a compound sentences. And these we use them in order to write paragraphs, and then we have to write some essays and articles. However, we have to understand what are the types of sentences that we have. Last time we have introduced what we call by a sentence. What do we mean by a clause and a phrase? If you didn't watch the video, I invite you to watch it again. Okay, so let's start. What is a simple sentence? A simple sentence contains one independent clause that expresses a complete thought. It consists of a subject and a verb and can stand alone as a complete sentence. Last time we have introduced what do we mean by a sentence. We said that a sentence should have two characteristics. It must have a subject and a predicate. And the second characteristic, it must have a meaning. It must serve a purpose. And this is also what we call an independent clause. Remember, last time I told you that every sentence is a clause, however, not any clause is a sentence. If it has no meaning, it is not a sentence. And this is what we mean by an independent clause. So I repeat, a simple sentence contains one independent clause that expresses a complete thought. When I say a complete thought, it means a complete idea. It means that it is not ambiguous. It consists of a subject and a verb and can stand alone as a complete sentence. Examples. We have here some couple of examples. The phone rang. You might recognize that the phone is a subject. Okay? So, rang is our verb, and this is what we call a predicate. So, this is the shortest sentence that you can find in English. The shortest sentence in English is composed of a subject and a verb. Okay? So the second sentence, John is cooking dinner. So this is our subject, okay? And the rest here is our predicate, okay? So I am tired. This is our subject and this is our predicate. And this is the case for all sentences here. We have she went to the store. We are going to the beach. We is the subject, and here is our predicate. So what is in common between these sentences? We have a subject and we have a predicate, okay? And the second characteristics is that they all have meaning. They all have a meaning, okay? So it is not ambiguous. So let's move to a complex sentence. What do we mean by a complex sentence? A complex sentence contains one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. So we have understood that an independent clause, okay, has a subject and has a predicate, and also it serves a meaning, okay? So what do we mean by a dependent clause? Okay, a dependent clause, okay, it is the same as what we call a clause, but if it does not have a meaning, this is what we call a dependent clause. It needs another clause in order to be fulfilled. Okay, in order to express a meaning. Like in here, a complex sentence contains an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. It needs an independent clause in order to be meaningful. The dependent clause cannot stand alone as a complete sentence, of course, because it does not have meaning. Okay? And it is usually introduced by a subordinating conjunction. Okay, we will see some subordinating conjunctions later. And of course, relative pronoun. Okay, so let's observe these examples. Although I studied hard. Although I studied hard. We can recognize that although is what we call a subordinating conjunction. Although I studied hard is what we call a dependent clause. I failed the test is an independent clause. Okay, so when we say, although I studied hard, does this clause have meaning? Of course not. It does not have any meaning. It must be followed by an independent clause. When I say, I failed the test, I failed the test. I failed the test is an independent clause because it has a meaning. It can stand alone. However, a dependent clause cannot stand alone. It is the same case for the second example. When I say, because it was raining, we stayed home. Because it was raining, we stayed home. Because is our subordinating conjunction. Because it was raining is the dependent clause, and we stayed home is our independent clause. However, be careful. An independent clause can also be at the first position. It is possible to say, we stayed home because it was raining. It is also correct. However, the independent clause came first, then the dependent clause came late. Okay? So the third example, after I finish my homework, I will watch TV. I will watch TV. After I finish my homework is our dependent clause. Then I will watch TV is our independent clause. I hope you have understood what do you mean by a compound sentence. A complex sentence. It is I hope you have understood what do you mean by a complex sentence. So what is a compound sentence? A compound sentence is different from a simple sentence, and is also different from complex sentences. A compound sentence contains two or more independent clauses, okay, that are joined by a coordinating conjunction. A coordinating conjunction. Okay? We'll see what do we mean by a coordinating conjunction by later. It is what we call the fan boys, or a semicolon. Okay? This is a punctuation mark, which is called a semicolon. Each independent clause can stand alone as a complete sentence. Of course, as we said previously, an independent clause can stand alone. However, we have two this time. So both are independent. They can be left alone, and we have also a meaning. So let's explore some examples here. I like to read and my sister likes to watch movies. So, I like to read is our first independent clause. I might ask you, is I like to read, is this sentence have meaning or not? Of course it has meaning. What about the second one, which is, and my sister likes to watch movies? Yes, it also has meaning. An independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction, which is and. And is one of the fun boys. Okay? So, she worked hard on her project, but she still didn't get an A. Here, this is our coordinating conjunction. She worked hard on her project is our first independent clause, and she still didn't get an A is our independent clause, second independent clause. So two independent clauses joined by the coordinating conjunction, but. In summary, a simple sentence has one independent clause. A complex sentence has one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. And a compound sentence has two or more independent clauses. So I hope you have understood our today's lesson. Thank you so much. Please, if you have liked this lesson, leave a comment down below. Please provide me with your feedback. Thank you so much.